Business parks suck, but they don't have to. Not just bikes. It's got a banger video here.
I've spent a lot of my life in business parks. I used to work in tech before it was cool. And back then, tech companies weren't exactly set up in shiny
I really like their sense of humor.
offices downtown. They were in the cheapest office space available. And that usually meant working in some crappy business park by the airport. My jobs required a lot of business travel as well, so I've been to a lot of crappy business parks all over the US and Canada. So the other day, when I needed to go to an appointment in a business park by the airport, I knew what to expect. At least, I thought I did.
Great intro.
I'm not going to share which company I was visiting with you internet weirdos. That's none of your damn business. But let's pretend it was this FedEx building. This was not like the business parks I was used to. The most unusual thing for me was that it was actually trivially easy for me to get there by public transportation. I rode my bike to the nearest station, parked in the underground parking garage, and walked to the train platforms. I could have waited for a direct train to my destination, but trains come so often here that it was just faster to take the first train going to the airport. I didn't even need to wait 2 minutes. Then at Schiphol Airport, I transferred to another train. And again, I didn't even need to wait 2 minutes.
I can't stand it. Look at this.
After that, it was a short, pleasant walk to the office building. As somebody taking public transit, this is a drastically different experience than any North American business park I've ever been to, and that's an
It's unfathomable
understatement. Let me explain. A long time ago in a suburb far, far away, I used to work...
I want you to watch this video, realizing that this is like what they took from us. Not this, the other part. Like this and all what you just heard. They took this from us. They never gave it to us. However you want to phrase it. And because of that, I want you to frame this in your mind as like, think of the untold, like, think of like all the untold, like all this untold like pain and harm and suffering in our communities because we chose to, I guess, pay for war and shit, right? Right? Depriving citizens of, like, this kind of infrastructure. How much time is wasted in our lives because we don't have stuff like this? How many opportunities were lost in people's lives because maybe they were late to something, an appointment, interview, or like an audition or something like that. How many opportunities people didn't even consider because an opportunity was just too far out of the way or whatever, right? And instead, what we're paying for war, and we've looked into that on this channel very much. I guess that's the cost of ensuring that war happens overseas, is by having lots of suffering where you live. Like, what's the fucking thing? They're going to get into how, like, we choose to work in and around really ugly places that no one wants to be. And how they're going to say tacitly that it's driving us insane. Right? And we convince ourselves that it's like an unnecessary evil, but it's not, It's an unnecessary evil. Wait, we convince ourselves it's a necessary evil, but it's unnecessary, and it is evil. So I like to just sort of frame it like that. And when I watched this video, I literally teared up because I was like, shit, dude, they're making our lives hell. But this presents some really nice solutions to some problems. So let's look at it like that, not that like the Netherlands is our model society for everything. We're just looking at it purely as just from the infrastructure point. So let's keep watching.
Business park I've ever been to, and that's an understatement. Let me explain.
We got food trucks.
A long time ago in a suburb far, far away, I used to work in this building in a crappy business park by the Toronto airport. It kinda sucked. The job and the location. I stole this mug from them before I left because it had the perfect corporate BS mission statement. It says, continuously improving customer satisfaction. I bet the management committee worked really, really hard to come up with that one. The office was here, and I was living in a shared house with some roommates on the other side of the airport here, about 10 kilometers away as the crow flies. Which would have been fine, except that I was a poor student, so I had to take the bus, and it was just so bad. I had two choices for my commute. The first was 2 buses, which were scheduled to come every 20 minutes in rush hour. But these were suburban buses that would constantly get stuck in traffic, so the schedule was absolutely meaningless. I could easily end up standing in the cold by this bus stop for over half an hour waiting for my transfer. And I had to cross 2 legs of this nasty suburban intersection between bus stops too.
Hell, dude.
Going this way, my typical commute, door to door, was anywhere from about 50 minutes to over an hour, depending on.
You got like a generation of like boomers and, you know, I guess maybe new millennial parents telling kids to go play outside, but this is the outside we gave them. Right? We got a whole group of people saying, "Oh, they're trying to take away our lifestyle." And this is our lifestyle. Who would want this?
On the transfer in traffic. Of course, if I had a car, the trip probably would have taken me around half an hour in traffic, so the whole commute could have been shorter sometimes than just waiting for that bus connection.
It's the meme.
So I opted for a second option, which was only 1 bus. But this was the actual route it took. 2 loops through the airport and out the other side. Going this way took me about an hour and 10 minutes, door to door, but at least I didn't have to stand out in the cold waiting for a transfer.
What?
When I got to my destination, the bus dropped me off here, at the side of this 6-lane Strode. It's an absolute...
Yes, he said Strode. And you have to check out the video on Strodes. If you look at this and you don't see any problems, watch the video on Strodes. You will understand what's wrong with this.
Absolutely miserable place to be outside of a car.
Miserable. Look at that.
I would then walk down the sidewalk next to the high-speed motor traffic. Then I'd cross through the grass here and go in through the back door.
No way.
There were constant problems and delays with my commute, but if I ever complained about it at work, the people there would usually just tell me I should grow up and buy a car.
Get a car.
I resisted telling them they didn't pay me enough to afford a car in the first place.
And that's how they get you.
At the time, I didn't think much of this. I was a student and I didn't have much money, so I had to take the bus along with all the other desperate people who couldn't afford a car. And I was born and raised in a car-infested city, so being surrounded by a constant stream of
gas station Macbeth, it looks like every city. You're absolutely right.
Vehicles and wide suburban stroads didn't really seem out of the ordinary. But when I think back on it, knowing what I know today, it was disgraceful. It's absolutely disgusting how public transit users are treated in North America.
I like his anger. I like how he does that. Changed your name.
And to be clear, this is in the suburbs of Toronto, which, by North American standards, have good public transportation. A lot of places in the US are much, much worse than this. At least here, I had a sidewalk.
It looks like everywhere,
but
right?
I can't
hate
even
it.
express how different that experience was to this place in the Netherlands, which is also a business park by the airport. This place in Mississauga is designed for cars, and everything else is an afterthought at best. You are simply not welcome here if you're not driving.
You know what that feels like, right?
But this is a place designed for people, a place that is comfortable and inviting to be in. It allows people to drive here too, but it's clearly not the only way to get here, or even the preferred way to get here, and that makes a huge difference.
Look at that.
After my meeting, I spent over an hour and a half wandering around this place, and it seemed every time I turned a corner, there was something else that amazed me. And that's kind of crazy considering, It's a business park by the airport. In North America, I was always a second-class citizen as a transit rider.
That's what it
Transit
feels like.
was an afterthought, overlaid on top of the extensive car infrastructure. But here, transit is prioritized as a first-class mode of transportation. This business park is a very easy walk from a train station with frequent service, and you're not stuck on a narrow sidewalk along a high-speed strode.
Oh my God, look at that.
These buses aren't stuck in traffic behind a bunch of cars on a suburban arterial road. They have their own completely separate road of their own. And it's raised up above the road for cars here so that it doesn't even need to stop at any traffic lights. This lets buses run regularly and reliably, and buses were arriving every few minutes as I was filming.
Is your mind
keep in mind,
getting blown
this
right
was
now?
on a Tuesday early in the afternoon, not at rush hour. The bus stop itself is spacious and comfortable with stairs and an elevator down to ground level. This is what first-class transit infrastructure looks like. In this business park, transit is prioritized. This place is built around public transit, not just for cars. The designers of this place want people to arrive here by transit, and they make it comfortable and convenient to do so.
I'm losing it.
This traffic light was great too. First,
Look at
it
this.
goes green for this bus. Most Dutch intersections have priority for public transit. If a public transit vehicle arrives, it always gets to go through and everybody else has to wait, which makes sense because there are usually several dozen people on a transit vehicle.
Check this out.
After a moment, the next priority is given to people walking and cycling. Because the system detected pedestrians here, the traffic light turned green to let them cross, while keeping the light red for all drivers to avoid any conflict between cars and people walking. Then the light turns green for these cars so that they can enter the roundabout. As the last car passes the stop line, the light turns red to allow other traffic to pass. But then, the traffic control system detects another car approaching, so it turns green again, and early enough that the approaching car doesn't need to stop. Then immediately after the car passes, it turns red again. This is a great example of how Dutch intersections allow short wait times or even no wait times for drivers, while also prioritizing cycling and public transit. It really is better for everyone. And over here...
Yeah, they're giving away the game. We should invade the Dutch. How dare you tell people this is how nice it can be. You're giving away the game. Shut it down.
At this part of the junction, the light is always green for pedestrians unless a car or transit vehicle is detected. So when I cross here, I don't need to press any buttons, I don't need to wait, and I don't need to cross 6 lanes of car traffic either.
This is unbelievable.
Keep walking safely and conveniently to the train station nearby. The other thing that amazed me is just how nice this place is, which makes it really enjoyable to walk. Which is why there were more people out here walking, even on this miserable rainy day, than you'd ever see in a business park in Canada, even in good weather. Canada does an okay job of making it theoretically possible to walk, as there are usually sidewalks, but it's definitely not enjoyable to walk, and most people will avoid walking in suburbia unless they're forced to. Notice here that every office is located next to the sidewalk, not across a sea of parking, and the pedestrian entrances are wide and comfortable. It's more pleasant to approach this building as a pedestrian than a driver. Okay, so the garden is probably nicer in summer, but you get the idea. The weather sucks here, but everything else is pretty great. And look at how easy it is to cross the road here. This is not a strode like you'd find in North America.
I hate them.
It's split into 2 sections of 2 narrow lanes in each direction, with a grassy median in between.
Huge sidewalk.
This means that, as a pedestrian, I only need to look in one direction at a time to find a gap in traffic.
Right?
There's no traffic light required, no expensive infrastructure. I just wait until it's safe to cross. I can't do this.
It's made for people, not cars, right? Like the United States is great if you're a car.
Across a 6-lane strode.
With that pollen, yeah.
Then there's a nice pedestrian bridge and a bicycle path that I need to cross. And then I get immediate access to the building without needing to go through any parking lots. Cars are still welcome here. This is actually pretty car-centric by Dutch standards. I mean, there's more than one lane for cars in each direction, which is pretty rare to see here. But the parking is all underground, tucked under the buildings, and it isn't an inconvenience or a safety hazard to pedestrians. The buildings here actually have interesting architecture too. They're not all a bunch of single-story concrete rectangles. There are loading bays for the businesses here, as you'd expect in a business park. But right next to it is the entrance to a parking garage for bicycles.
That's so cool.
I also appreciate how the water management infrastructure takes the form of attractive canals rather than an ugly stormwater pond next to a freeway.
Dude, I would totally bang that canal. Wait, what?
In general, it's just really nice here. People spend a lot of time where they work, and it's important that those places are nice for our own sanity. Let's face it, this place is ugly, really ugly. Nobody wants to be here. Getting here is a necessary evil that people put up with. It's bad enough sitting in a tiny cubicle, staring at a computer screen, filling out useless forms and listening to 8 different bosses drone on about mission statements, without also being surrounded by soul-crushing asphalt and concrete every time you step outside. Nobody gets any joy from being here, even the people in cars. Nothing about this place is good. And here it is over 20 years later, and this place still sucks, which is
what happens when you let the market figure it out. You know what I mean? Can we just finally take a more shared approach to looking at how we design our spaces, our public spaces? This is the go and figure it out on your own version of public spaces. Oh, you don't have a car? Fucking deal with it. Oh, we'll put a little sidewalk right next to the fucking road. Strode while these cars are zipping by at 55. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Just tell me I'm a second-class citizen without telling me I'm a second-class citizen. Get out of here.
Which is why I was able to get this video of it. To be fair, the buses are more frequent than they were in my day, but they're still stuck in traffic and still take the same circuitous routes.
Yeah.
And now they've even put up a fence around the building I used to work in, so walking from the bus stop is even worse today than it was when I worked there.
Made it worse.
I actually got angry coming to this business park. Thinking about all those years of my life wasted away on those crappy buses stuck in traffic, the long cold walks down the side of an awful suburban 6-lane strode, getting cut off by drivers when crossing the road and constantly feeling like a second-class citizen. And I didn't even talk about the amazing bicycle infrastructure that is literally everywhere around this area. Or the park and ride garage that makes it easy for people in the suburbs to come into the city without driving. And I don't mean to imply that every business park in the Netherlands is always going to be this good. But even remote industrial parks have high-quality cycling infrastructure. I don't know how to express this feeling to people who have never experienced both places. Europeans are going to look at this and think, okay, so you took a train to a business park, big deal. And North Americans are going to look at this and think, there's a sidewalk and a bus shelter. What are you complaining about? Or more likely, oh, just shut up and get a car. But it's not any one of these elements, it's all of these things together. It's the high-quality public transportation that's clean and well-maintained, and so frequent that you don't even need to look.
Clean and well-maintained. Like, it just shows you how seriously they take it, how much they invest in it, Yeah, and really good point here. Imagine being disabled. Right? They did not design public spaces here in the United States for the disabled. It's just tragic. It's just the saddest thing in the world. Dunstable Ramsey, welcome in. WKT Dev, welcome in. What up? Yeah, trying to make it here as disabled, getting around. It's just sometimes fucking impossible, right? This is some of that untold harm. How often do I take the L? I live in one of the only good cities in the U.S. with public transit. I would say it's like not even that great, though. It's good, considering some places don't have any. But again, if I want to take the L, it's a 45-minute walk. I live in sort of a pocket of the city where it's not close to the L. So either I got to hop on a bus and take like a 30-minute ride on a bus to the L, and then maybe I can go downtown. Otherwise, there actually is a metro that slices right through the city, and it's actually 2 blocks away. So if I want to go downtown, and I can get there really quickly in like 15, 20 minutes if I time it out right. It's just cuts through the city. But that's not ideal, to be honest. So yeah, I wish I lived closer to the L. I don't.
Look at a schedule. It's the airport that's not just another destination, but a major transportation hub, with trains
beautiful.
leaving every few minutes.
Look how beautiful that is.
It's the single payment card that can be used on all transportation systems in the entire country.
Oh my God, that's unfathomable to me. One card for the entire country? Get the fuck out of here.
It's the respect that's given to transit users and the enjoyable experience for pedestrians. It's sidewalks with other people on them, not just me next to a constant flow of cars. It's the options that are provided for walking, cycling, and public transit. It's the freedom to not to have to drive. And you know what? It's when the people you're meeting ask how you got there, and they don't look down on you for taking public transportation. In fact,
when they say freedom here in the United States, they mean freedom for like all the different people who give quote unquote public transportation. They all can have their own card, their own payment system. You got to have like 12 different cards to get, if you're going to be connecting with different styles of transportation. That's freedom. We have the freedom for car manufacturers to make a killing because they didn't design our public spaces to be, traversed by foot. Who's got freedom here in the United States? As a socialist, if you're like new to socialism, I want to encourage you to often ask yourself, when they say freedom, for things like that, say for who? When they talk about good things happening in the economy, say for who? And that'll be really revealing for you.
They're relieved because then they didn't have to sort out visitor parking. It's the respect, the consideration, being treated every bit as good as everybody else, regardless of the way you got to the office. And that is something that just doesn't exist in most of North America.
No.
And let's face it, large parts of the US and Canada suck.
Look at this.
They're non-places, dysfunctional, insolvent, and ugly. If all of the jobs moved out of here and this place disappeared tomorrow, nobody would even care. But it doesn't have to be this way. I've seen the alternatives.
Landlords, they'd care.
Cities built for people, not just for cars. If we design our cities differently, it is possible to make places that don't suck. Places where you'd actually want to be. And yeah, even a business park by the airport. I'd like to thank my supporters on Patreon who pay me to get irrationally angry, rationally angry about business parks. If you'd like to support the channel and allow me to wander around with a camera in other ridiculous places, visit patreon.com/
Do you see what they did? They stuck it off to the side and they have the thank yous on the left side. Oh, I'm going to redo my stuff, aren't I? I'm going to have to redo my stuff again. Well, I'm going to get an assigned name in there after all. All right. Any other final takes on what we just watched? Here we go. Interestingly, a lot of improvements in public spaces are because people with disabilities had to fight for them. So some of the most vulnerable people are having to fight in court. Yeah, that's just a fucking crying shame. I mean, they're already disabled. And they got to fucking take all this extra time, It's just like, come on. So, I want to remind you here, I don't know if you like the dialectic.
I love the dialectic.
Oh, okay. But you got to ask yourself, it's the Netherlands. How do they do this? They're in NATO, so they're still spending money on war, but they're not doing it like we do here. And of course, historically, what is the Netherlands? The Dutch are like some of the best colonialists of all time, right? So there's some not great things going on in that sense. Like, where'd the money come from, right? And of course, they're still like doing SOCDEM capitalism light, right? While participating in, a global capital hegemony, and that's not great, right? What else do we need to mention about this? You can't just watch this and be like, hey, Dutch people are great. They've never done anything bad, But of course, all of what we saw is good. And we could talk about both things, right? What are your thoughts? All right, well, that is the end of the YouTube clip. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for making it here to the end of the video. You can support this kind of content by joining us here on Twitch. I stream here each day, twitch.tv/iDanSimpson. We talk news, we talk politics. I make clips. I upload the best stuff to YouTube and some of the worst stuff too. Okay. And also you can support on Patreon, patreon.com/iDanSimpson. Thank you for watching. Love your face. Special thanks to Todd Gonzalez.